Hello guys, welcome to At Square Hustle and Hope. At Hustle and Hope, we try to unveil incredible founders journey. And to begin with, we have our host, our guest in the house, Akshay Maharaj. How are you doing, Akshay, today?
Good. Excited to be here. Excited to be part of the podcast and hopefully share some good information in theme with the idea of hustle and hope. I love that.
Exactly, because with Hustle and Hope, we try to come up with hustle, which always. So what we believe is every entrepreneur does the hustle only with the hope.
hmm
Right. So, what was that hustle that you undergo? Would you like to share some insights about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few different parts to the hustle. I would say that I went over, and I think if I were to bring you right back, it all started when I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Growing up, I was always really focused on achieving as much as I can, whether that be
Mm-hmm.
through academics, extracurriculars, business, sports, whatever it might have been.
Correct.
And I think the first time I actually experienced that hustle was when I worked at a neuroscience lab in
Mm-hmm.
high school at a university. And I
Mm-hmm.
was by far one of the youngest students to work in that environment, yet I was put at a standard of master's and PhD level students. And so
Wow.
I was doing Alzheimer's and autism research. And
Mm-hmm.
a part of the research that I was conducting was to do different RNA
Mm-hmm.
practices. And that was the first time I experienced this out of box thinking, this
Mm-hmm.
environment that I wasn't always so comfortable operating in, and trying to achieve that in a way where I could in the best of my ability. So that was my first glimpse, and that was all in the science world. And then things quickly transitioned into the business world, and obviously started the first venture there at the time called Web Translators International, which evolved to Aview, which is what we have today.
So when was, if you put try to put it in the spectrum of a timeline,
Mm-hmm.
what would you say, when was the idea ignited and
So
how?
my co-founder Garnet, who I grew up with since
Mm.
kindergarten, him and I worked together on almost every aspect of our life. We would
Fair.
compete all the time when it comes to academics. He played AAA level hockey. I played AA level hockey. Like I was trying to work to become a better player,
Mm.
and so he was a big motivation factor to me. And he came to me one day and he was like,
Mm-hmm.
"I want to start a business." And I said to Garnet, "I'm like, great, but I have
Mm.
zero business experience. I just
Absolutely.
know science and I know how to maybe talk to people, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what a balance sheet is. I don't know what a business statement is. I don't know what anything is."
Exactly.
And so that was my first glimpse into this idea of entrepreneurship without
Mm.
really even knowing what an entrepreneur was. And when
Mm.
he came to me with this idea, it was stemmed around working with our favorite content creators. As
Mm.
someone in high school who
Mm.
came home and consumed a ton of YouTube,
Correct.
I thought, you know what, this is great. I get to
Mm.
work with my favorite creators and
Mm.
I get to watch all their content.
Fair.
And every time my parents came into my room to see what I was up to, I was doing market research because I was watching YouTube videos. And so, that was the first, insight of business, insight of entrepreneurship, insight of the start of that process.
Mm.
And what we had come up with is this very simple subtitling service. We found a
Mm.
gap, and the gap was our favorite creators were unable to translate their content to different languages.
Mm.
Nothing crazy, literally
Correct.
nothing crazy. It was just that. And we started hiring translators. We started
Mm.
reaching out to content creators. And next thing you know, we were kind of the middlemen in between the two
Mm.
parties. And we started facilitating content translations all around the world, getting well over 500 million views relatively quickly for these international content creators. But it was a tough hill to climb in the
Absolutely.
beginning phases because being or having rather no knowledge in business,
Mm.
we had to learn everything ourselves. We didn't have the mentorship, we didn't have the guidance, we didn't have anything that current day entrepreneurs have.
I agree. I agree. Because let's say if we talk about the year, what year are we talking that you
That was 2016.
2016?
2016, 2017.
I mean, 2016 and 17 would have not seen the potential of content creators
Yeah.
back then. Like how, like what, how did you like even come up with transcripting only? Why not something else? Like not making an another
Yeah.
Instagram or Facebook or something.
You know, there there comes this idea of problem solving.
Mm.
And one thing I learned while being in that research lab is everything is about problem solving. The
Mm.
problem that I was solving over there was this idea of how do you prevent Alzheimer's, how do you look into autism, but then we problem solve every day. We have to
Mm.
make decisions every day.
True.
And one of the biggest problems that we saw was just the inability for these content creators to expand.
Mm.
Was it a massive problem? No. Was it a this novel crazy solution? Absolutely
Mm.
not. It was seeing a very small problem that met the need for a very niche style of
Mm.
content creator at that time, and we provided a service that solved their problem. And that,
Mm.
that was literally it. There was this identification of the problem, and
Mm.
there's a simple solution for the problem.
Fair.
And we believe that we were the
Mm.
right team to
Mm.
solve this problem because the alternatives at
Mm.
time
Mm.
were very corporate heavy. They were
Mm.
companies that were trying to work with content creators but didn't understand the nuances of the language, didn't
Mm.
understand the nuances of their video, and they didn't really
Mm.
understand what it is to work with an influencer. Their pricing
Mm.
model was off, the way they contacted
Mm.
creators were off,
Correct.
and it left this massive void that we thought we
Mm.
could fill. And we did fill it, and filled it quite well,
Mm.
and we were quite happy with the results that it came from, but we didn't see much more than that. So we stopped
Mm.
that company, kind of
Mm.
paused the operations,
Correct.
started something else, and then came back to it, actually, funny enough, about 2 years ago.
Interesting. So, you began in the year 2016, 17-ish,
Yeah,
and then you were two high school students you two high school students saw a gap and wanted to deep dive into it,
totally.
right? So you identified the problem. But again, the main part of entrepreneurship is to identify the problem and then try to solve the problem with the skill sets. Either you build a team and you look out for funds. So for you, fortunately, you and your classmate or your childhood friend happened to be your teammate. What do you believe that what kind of skill sets were needed for you two guys to bring it on the table and to
Yeah.
make it happen?
You know, I'm currently a huge fan of the UFC, huge fan of MMA. And there's a fighter, his name is Kamaru Usman. And Kamaru Usman was the pound for pound number one fighter during his title reign. He was lapping the division. And one of the things he said, and I reflect back at this quote, looking at myself from back in 2017, 2016, is the reason why I'm the best at what I am is because my mind is stronger than anyone else.
Wow.
It wasn't about his athleticism. It
Mm.
wasn't about how much time he's putting into the gym, although he was.
Correct.
It was all around his mindset.
Fair.
And during that time, without even knowing it, Garnet and I had this mindset, obsessive mindset of being better than any alternative, then solving the problem in a way where we could capture market share no one else could.
Fair.
We obsessed over that problem. We obsessed over the solution that we offered them. We obsessed over the creators that we worked with. And as I think back to those moments, I realized, wow, this is so in line with one of my favorite fighters and how he went about his career. And so it's very interesting when I think about all that. But when it comes to skills and characteristics, at the end of the day, it was all mindset. Because again, we weren't technical.
Fair.
We didn't come from a business background.
Exactly.
And so the only skill we had was the ability to motivate ourselves, to drive ourselves, and then also to listen to our customers. That was, I mean, at the end of the day, those were the three biggest things. And I feel like every single company stems from something like that. If you have the technical skills, you come from a great business background, but you can't listen to customers, or you don't have the drive, or you don't have the motivation, or you don't have the mindset, there's no point.
There's no point.
There's no point. And so I think everyone gets so caught up in these little skills here and there, which, don't get me wrong, they help. They help a lot.
Absolutely.
But they can be learned, and you have to be willing to learn them.
I agree on that, because what I believe personally is that is the biggest characteristic of a human being. If you have the mindset, you can be trained.
Yeah.
Exactly. And this is what you have been proving. Because it's very interesting when I look back at your story where you mention you are two young lads, right, having no expertise, technical expertise, having no background with business, but you tried to touch down all the fundamentals of entrepreneurship, right? You had the motivation and the mindset, and then you listen to the customers, correct? So now you have ignited the idea, you have understood the problem, solved the problem with motivation and spirit, right? So you build a team with you and your childhood friend. Now, how did you gather funds for the product development? How tough was that period?
Yeah. So we started a View version 1 of this company with $0, nothing. We didn't have any savings because we were not working.
Exactly.
And we were profitable from day one. So we didn't have to invest any additional money into the company, which was great.
Great.
Same time, we didn't also see the vision of the company being greater than subtitle translation. In fact, whenever we thought about chatbots, whenever we thought about AI, whenever we thought about alternative solutions like dubbing, at that time, we were turned off. We were like, no, this isn't the future. We're not going in that direction. Funny enough, look at where Aview is today. We're now leading a lot of that in the sense of translation and dubbing. But that was something that we thought about a lot of is, do we need money to start this thing? And we said, no, we don't want to put money into this because we want to use the money that we made to fund everything else.
Correct.
And as we began to build out the team, began to acquire new translators, we did it in a way where we didn't have to pay out advances. We didn't have to pay out a ton of salaries. We were able to support ourselves in a way where we didn't need to dip into the pockets of investors, which was great because we owned 100% of the company. And it's funny because there's two times during the time in high school where we were asked to be acquired. Someone wanted to just buy everything that we had. The book of businesses, which meant all the customers that we had, as well as all the access to translators we had. Because we had a team of around 70 translators that were working around the clock for us, all around the world. And the first conversation was actually with a content creator. And Garnet and I were at school, during lunch, inside his car, talking to this content creator and his team, who said that they want to buy into our company completely. And it was at that moment where we realized we might be onto something. Exactly. There might be something here. And we didn't know what we were doing. We just said, okay, we'll think about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
In hindsight, I'm glad we didn't sell it. I'm glad we didn't try to get that acquisition. And to see where it is today, I'm very happy with decisions that we've made. And the second time was actually with an investment partner based in Toronto who wanted to buy into the company as well for a lump sum of money. And to us as two kids who had no idea what investments were, what acquisitions were, what any of these terminologies were at all we knew was that people cared. All we knew was that if people want to give us their money, we are onto something.
You were sitting on a gold mine that you have understood when people came after you. I mean, that's interesting because you build a company without raising funds in the initial days. You were successfully able to manage all of your transactions without any advance payments, which was a wonderful achievement in my opinion. I'm telling you, because nowadays, if you want to start up a startup, you need at least some amount of funds to play around at the first few days. That's a great achievement. So once you were at the stage where you have seen that this is getting going, why did you stop, as you mentioned before? What made you stop?
So this entire company was just the means to pay for university. That was the idea, right? It was a way for us to work on something throughout high school, to participate in DECA, which is this business club, to just find a way where we didn't have to rely on grants or family to pay university. And we achieved our goal, which was great. But then at the end of the day, we didn't see beyond that. We both went to business school, both went to Queen's, and my idea was I'm just going to go in consulting, and maybe I'm going to do banking. Garnet was in the mindset of potentially doing some consulting as well, some real estate. So he was thinking about alternative ideas, and I think we both kind of lost touch to our roots of entrepreneurship and what startup was in our first year. And during our second year of university, we were approached by a friend of ours who had this other startup idea that he tried to run in high school. And it was the beginning of our second startup, which is called Aview. But to answer your question, I mean, to be quite honest, it was just a means to pay for university. It wasn't much more than that, and nor did we really care about moving this much more than that, because we were very happy with the payment. We're very happy with success. And it was a way, and again, as a high school student at the time, you're only thinking towards your next step. And our next step was university. After
Absolutely.
university, the next step is get a job. We weren't
Yeah.
thinking about making generational wealth for our family in high school, right?
Absolutely not. Because I love the fact that since your vision was limited back then, you had to drop it off. Right. So how was the support from the family? Like you were in the high school and then going to university.
Yeah, my parents have always been a supporter of my entrepreneur initiatives. My brother, I would say, is more of the traditional
Mm-hmm.
individual who went down his undergrad,
Mm-hmm.
masters,
Mm-hmm.
MD. He went down that pathway, which was great for me because then he got all that off his back. So now I could do whatever I wanted.
Absolutely.
No, but I would say when I think about the discussions I had with my family, it all
Mm.
came back down to security uh, of job and financial security for myself. And again, they were, although aware of what we were doing,
Mm.
didn't truly understand what we're doing, which
Exactly.
is okay. That's
Mm.
totally fine. I think a part of that is a fault of my own, but they
Mm.
were supportive nonetheless, and they believed in what we're trying to do. They encouraged us, and one thing that my parents did, which I'm very grateful of, is they
Mm.
eliminated every other distraction for me, where all I need to focus in on school
Mm.
and my work. Right?
Mm.
They would take care of literally everything. I didn't have to think about it.
Mm.
Anything goes be done, and having that, being brought up in that type of environment, it taught me that I have to work really hard
Mm.
because they're doing everything else for me. I need to repay this. I need to be able
Mm.
to give this back to them in some way or another. Now, don't get me wrong. There were times of conversation around
Mm.
finishing university, how
Exactly.
I'm going to finish university, if I'm going to finish university. Um, Now, obviously, we've agreed on a bunch of stuff around that topic,
Mm.
but yeah, it was all supportiveness, I would say, at the end of the day, right? And now they're some of my biggest cheerleaders towards everything I do.
Of course, of course. They
Mhm.
deserve to be on the winning side.
Totally, I hope so. Yeah, I think as
Yeah,
things move forward, I think they are on the winning side, and
they
hopefully
have
things
to.
continue to win.
Absolutely. Because it's very important in one's factor when, since I also graduated from the university, right? So it
Mhm.
depends upon a path where you choose and where you cannot explain it to your parents. I mean,
Yeah,
you're talking about what, 2017, 18, where content creation was not even a thing, I believe, right?
it was. We were just coming off of this push of Vine, right? Which
Exactly.
was a 7-second platform. And,
Mm,
we didn't really know what was next after that. And you
mm,
had this rise of Instagram photos, but video wasn't really as big. And then YouTube started to pop up a little bit more.
mm.
Um, and there was a few kind of bigger groups of content creators that are leading the pack and all that, but it was still relatively new, even though these platforms were around for a significant amount of time.
Correct.
This idea of video creation wasn't as
Mm,
popular compared to the larger scale movies,
mm,
larger scale production. I mean, that was always there, right?
mm.
So it's fascinating to look back and reflect on that component of the journey.
Absolutely. So, what year did you go to the university, and when did you graduated and came back to the?
So I graduated high school in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So my first year of Queens was that September of
Mm-hmm.
2018.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't graduated university.
You haven't.
Nope. I am
Wow.
still considered a student at Queens. I was supposed to graduate in 2022.
Correct.
I stopped full time school in 2019 during COVID to
Mm-hmm.
pursue my other startup. Um, since I started pursuing that startup, I never went back to full time school because of we started to acquire investors, we started to acquire customers, we started to make
Mm.
money, and it was really hard to balance
It
everything
was an
together.
another startup, right?
I started another company in the
Mm.
in the middle of university that lasted about 2.5 years, and I
Two,
came
two and a
back
half.
to Aview.
So, I mean, just a quick brief of that company. How did it? How did that venture went passed by for you?
Yeah, so Vibe was a company that I believed a lot in, and
Mm.
still believe that the vision of that company could hold a lot of merit in today. And ideally, what it started off was
Mm-hmm.
a Netflix for influencers, a platform that
Mm.
allowed content creators to monetize audiences, in particular, content creators that were slightly demonetized on platforms like YouTube. At that time, in
Mm.
the social media space, content creators were experiencing something called the adpocalypse, which was where advertisers were pulling a ton of money from platforms like YouTube because of the content that was being uploaded. Long story short, a lot of very popular content creators started to be censored and started to reduce monetization, which in their case was a pay cut. And so our solution to this problem of adpocalypse was to put them exclusively on a new platform and have their audience pay a membership fee to access their content. And this content would be highly produced, exclusive, and content that you'll never see before. That was the original idea. We had pitched it to Y Combinator, we had pitched it to Techstars, we had pitched it to a bunch of other top-end accelerator programs, but no one believed in the vision. And we had a few content creators that had decided to join initially. And as they started to join, we realized that there's a much bigger problem here than what we anticipated. And it's not a matter of monetizing 100 of the fans. It's a matter of monetizing, this is actually quite interesting, a surprise, monetizing the 1% of their audience. Because that's 1% of their audience have a higher willingness to pay than the other 100 potential audience members. And so we decided to pivot this idea to be a platform that allowed these creators to monetize the whales of their audience, the people that are willing to spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars for an experience, a phone call, a text message, to be able to go on live stream with these influencers, to be able to record a song with these influencers, to be able to do pretty much anything. And the way you earn this currency that we would pay the creators is by simply watching their content. You watch your favorite creators' content, and by default, you earn currency. You then spend that currency on these interactions with creators.
Interesting.
That's how it was.
You pay a subscription to watch that content, and you get a currency which you can use it in the form of credits, which you can use.
So we even got rid of the currency. The subscription. So it was free to use.
Free to use.
I go on Instagram. I watch Logan Paul. I earn points.
Oh, wow.
I then go onto Aview. I spend my points that I earned on interacting with him. Now, if I don't earn enough points, I can buy the points. So an interaction with Logan, like a phone call, could cost 10,000 points, right? Or I can spend a year and a half earning 10,000 points and spending it on that interaction. So that's an example of how the company functioned. We had raised some capital out in Silicon Valley around that idea. But when I look back at why the company didn't succeed the way we anticipated it to, it fell back down to, I don't think we were the right founders at the time to solve this problem. I think there is a lot of different directions that we wanted to go in, but never really landed on a few different ideas. The product at that time had ups and downs. I think we learned a lot in how to ship a right product, how to launch a proper product, how to build a strong team, how to manage a strong team, how to communicate with customers, how to ensure that the agreements we have in place are advantageous to us as well as the customers. And so I think there's a lot of little things that we learned throughout that process. And I have to say, when that company, we kind of completely shut that thing down, it was really sad. It was very upsetting.
It is.
Because it was this thing that we spent 2.5 years tirelessly working on. And we tried to pivot to something else. That didn't work out, and we thought, you know what, better cut our ties and move on from this. And that got me into, I guess during that time, I'd gone to this program called Next Canada, Next 36 in particular, and I had one summer to work on the company. So I called Garnet and I said, look, man, we got into this program. What do you want to do? Do you want to bring back a vibe? Do you want to try one more time? Or do you want to bring Aview back? And he's like, why don't we just do Aview? So we're like, all right, we're going to put our head down. Let's try to build this company up. And we said to ourselves, we wanted to clear a certain revenue figure in that summertime. And we cleared it by a large margin. And we thought, okay, let's pursue this as a full-time gig.
That's pretty interesting, because it becomes very disheartening once you have put all of your resources for a venture which you believe could be a next billion-dollar idea for you. You and your team strongly believes in that, and then it just doesn't come off.
But that's just the way it is, right? And I think unfortunately, there's a stat that says a lot of the times companies fail is because the team isn't the right fit to put it together. And I never believed that stat. I always thought there's no way that's the right stat. There's not a chance that's the right stat. And looking back, we're part of that. We're part of that statistic. Right? We're part of the statistic. And again, learned a lot. So even right now, when we bring on employees, when we bring on interns, any team member that affects the operations of Aview, we're very cautious, we're very aware as to who we bring on, why we bring them on, and how they're going to solve a problem for us internally within the company and
Correct.
help us achieve different milestones, right?
Absolutely, because it becomes important to learn how to fail too.
It is, right? And a lot of people are not willing to do that. A lot of people turn their mind off as soon as turbulence happens, as soon as
Hmm.
something starts to go wrong. They get very defensive of it, and they get very caught up in this idea of this is it,
Hmm.
this is over, or I don't ever want to do this again. But you have to rebound back, right?
Correct.
Like every single day I hear good news, and every single day I hear bad news. And if impacted by every single piece of bad news that we heard, I definitely wouldn't be here today. I mean, don't
Absolutely.
get me wrong, being rejected by Y Combinator, being rejected by Techstars, being rejected by all these accelerators the
Hmm.
first time around taught us so much about what it is to build a company, what it is to try to
Hmm.
succeed. And now with Aview being able to have gone through some of those accelerators,
Hmm.
it's great, right? We're like, okay, we achieved some of the goals we had sought out for ourselves.
That's pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So you started that company. You had a biggest failure, I believe, of the life till now.
Yeah, that's up there. I would say,
It
yeah.
it tops the list, I believe,
I would
right?
say the failure of a vibe was probably up there. But again, I don't look at it as I
Uh,
look at it more of a learning lesson, as a first trial, because I feel like had
mhm,
I had not
mhm,
had some of the downturns of that company, I
hmm,
wouldn't have known what to do with Aview.
hmm.
And that's the part I'm grateful in.
So
And
then you came back to Aview at what, 2019, 2020,
2021.
2021, and then you and your co-founder, again the same founding team, right? You came back and you started the Aview again.
Yep. We rebranded the entire company.
Hmm.
We went through a process, a thought experiment, and
Hmm.
determined, do we want this to become a venture backable company, or do we want this to be a lifestyle company?
Hmm.
And we had a mentor at the time who was very big in the creator economy, very big, successful entrepreneur. And he asked us this. He said, there's nothing wrong with being a lifestyle company. We make a couple $1 million a year. We're
Hmm.
sufficient. We take care of our family. There's nothing wrong with that.
Correct.
Or we can
Hmm.
be a venture backable company. We
Hmm.
invest heavily into R&D, we build
Hmm.
technology, and we
Hmm.
try to become $1 billion company. With that comes investments, with that comes the stresses of investments, with that comes employees, so
Hmm.
much more towards that. But the opportunity of that is, instead of
Hmm.
a single $1 million, you can make tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of $1 million, potentially become $1 billion company. And there was something exciting about that to us. There's
Hmm.
something very interesting about pursuing it in a different direction. Mind I
Hmm.
say, we had no technical experience.
Hmm.
We didn't really understand the whole startup scene a ton. I mean, we even though
Hmm.
we had built a vibe, we had known what it's sort of like, but still we're
Hmm.
really new to everything.
Correct.
But we said, you know what? I think we have enough skills. I
Hmm.
think we have enough ability to do this. Let's give it a try.
Wow.
And that was a turning point as to when we decided to raise capital, when we decided to actually turn this company into something much larger.
Much larger.
Mm-hmm.
So like you started in 2017, 18, you did it for a year and a half, then you went back when you went to your university, sort of dropping out, I'll say.
Part-time school.
Part-time school, from full-time to part-time to focus on one of the biggest ventures that you
Yep.
believed and your co-founder believed in. Got a setback in 2020, 2021. Then you
Mm-hmm.
came back to the original idea at 2021. Then it flourished.
Yeah.
It flourished because of the learnings that you took upon those failures of yours.
Yeah, I think learnings were definitely one thing, but also this mentorship and support that we got. We started to
Hmm.
really understand the value of network. So being a
Hmm.
part of a program like Next Canada, getting the mentorship
Hmm.
from their team, understanding the right ways to do things, the
Hmm.
wrong ways to do things, that helped a lot. And
Hmm.
then going into creative destruction labs right afterwards, being able to understand and learn from some of the
Hmm.
best and highest achieved founders,
Absolutely.
advisors in Canada, was such a surreal environment to be in. And to be one of the youngest founders in that program as well was something spectacular.
Hmm.
um, I think I've never really felt that chip on my shoulder as a young founder, but in that room,
Hmm.
when I look around myself and I see
Hmm.
PhDs, masters, I see
Yeah.
very achieved individuals
Hmm.
academically who are
Yeah.
trying to build companies, and then I
Hmm.
see, myself as this high school diploma holding kid. It's fun. It's really fun, and it it brings out this competitive nature in myself.
Well, there could be two perspective on this, right? So the left one would be that you may feel an inferior complex to the many out there, mostly all.
Right.
And there could be another perspective where you find it very fun
Yeah.
that you are the youngest, you have the most liability of making mistakes,
Totally.
right? So how did you pursue that?
I think at the end of the day, I was just myself.
Correct.
And I said, I'm not going to conform, change who I am to fit this mold of who they want me to be.
Correct.
And to be quite honest, I told them very bluntly, very straight up, yeah, we know we're young, but we understand this market better than anyone else. Yes, I'm only 24, but I've been in this space for almost 9 years now, right? And so there are so many little aspects of it because we started so early that we understand this problem set so well. And every mentor in that room aligned on one thing that day, and it was the fact that they believed in that vision of who we are as founders. And that was after our first session when companies get cut, and we kept on moving forward, kept moving forward until the very last session where we met with who then led our round, which is Box One Ventures, which are some of the best investors that I've ever met, and I love their story in particular. We come back after pitching to the room one final time. And that final pitch was either we're going to graduate the program or we're going to get kicked out of the program. And I come back to my computer, and in the Slack group chat is a investment.
Wow.
The agreement with the amount, with our company information on it. And he said, let's do this.
Wow.
And I was blown away. I'd never seen that much money in my entire life in a contract. And I'm like, this was just sent through Slack. Are you kidding me right now? And so we ended up agreeing to that investment. We ended up graduating. We're one of the 4 companies out of 25 to start that graduated the program. But I'll never forget that moment. That moment was so surreal, and it was such a cool opportunity, such a crazy environment to be in. And then right after that, we had moved into Techstars, which was, one of the best accelerator programs in the world. So it was really...
I was about to ask you what would be the memorable day for you, and I believe that would be the...
It's so hard to pinpoint one day, of the best day. I think every day I get news from a customer. I have meetings. Like today, I had the most amazing conversation with one of my favorite companies to work with, which is the UFC and PowerSlap. And I was meeting with them, pitching a bunch of new globalization strategies for 2025. And to spare the conversation short, having conversations like that, having my intern, who I'm kind of grooming to become an employee of ours, in that conversation with me, and showing how excited he was to be participating in that. It's moments like this that I'll never forget. It's moments where I receive an email from a translator I used to work with in the past saying, Akshay, I've been able to move my family out of Africa into Spain. And I was like, how? He's like, because of all the work I've been doing for you guys. Wow. And I've been able to give my family a new life. As a 17-year-old kid reading an email like that, I don't even know what to feel. I couldn't comprehend the emotions to feel during that. But then you also have the downsides of receiving an email from someone in the Middle East saying, Akshay, I need money. I need to work with you. Please, please. I'll even work for fractions of what you're charging right now. But he's located in war-stricken areas where I'm unable to even send money to. Right? And so now I'm, again, trying to problem solve this. I have no idea what to do. Right? And so, again, you're faced with adversities every day, but then you're also faced with these successes. And I think those successes have taught me so much about myself. And again, relating it all back to like MMA and the UFC, it's like every day when I wake up, I feel like I'm preparing myself to go into that octagon, to go compete. And then at the end, I come back, I reflect, I wake up again in the morning, I do that all over again. And I love that system. I love that rhythm. And that's like keeps me going every single day.
I absolutely agree with you, because I also had a very brave entrepreneurial journey, and what I have understood from it is that an entrepreneur is never off the duty. It's like it's a shoulder that you are always going in and doing it.
Totally.
So now the final thread that I would like to pull upon is, how do you balance your work life? Being an entrepreneur, I understand that you have to be on the toes 24/7, but how do you manage, or how successful do you believe are you?
I don't think I'm very good at balancing anything. I think I've experienced burnout. I've experienced not eating and not staying hydrated and what that does to my
Mm.
body over long periods of time. And I know now what not to do in order for me to
Okay.
get to that position, which I'm very happy about, although at that time was very quite miserable. And so to keep myself grounded, to keep myself going, I play hockey 4 times a week.
4 times
So
a
I
week, yeah.
play Monday on a team that we sponsor from Aview,
Mm.
which is unbelievable. Such a cool opportunity.
Mm.
I love the guys I play with, and we're a very good team, which is makes things even better. And then
Mm.
I play with a bunch of guys I went to high school with on Thursdays. So I play on 2 different teams on Thursdays.
Mm.
So I have back-to-back games, which is exhausting, but I love every part of it. One group of guys I grew up playing hockey with since I was 5 years old. The other group are a group of
Mm.
students I went to a neighboring high school, and so we all play together on
Mm.
Thursdays, and then on Tuesdays I also play with one of the brothers from the teams I'm on
Mm.
already. So it's
Mm.
a bit of a younger demographic of university students, but still
Mm.
competitive hockey. And then on Sundays I'm playing ball hockey, and so
Mm.
I try to get out there as much as possible. I try to be as active as possible
Mm.
because I find that just sitting and being
Mm.
isolated in a room all day
Mm.
is not going to be strengthening my mind. But
Correct.
having the adversity of being on the ice, being able to have a sense of clarity for a couple hours,
Mm.
and then sleep well, wake up in the morning, and go right back at it. I think hockey was that one part of me that was missing for a long period of time, which I
Mm.
recently got back into. And then
Mm.
also during university, to keep myself grounded, I did Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and so I
Mm.
was like really into that whole side of things. And unfortunately, I wish I could do it all, right? I wish I could. I honestly wish I could do it all, but I had to pick my battles and choose where I want to
Absolutely.
dedicate my evenings to, right? But at the same time, I do want to spend time with my family on the weekends, and so I'm
Mm.
cognizant of that, and my brother and
Mm.
some friends as well. And so, but again, right, like everyone understands of the grind I'm in, and they know that entrepreneurs and founders they work so hard for
Mm.
a period of time, and then they can go enjoy the rest of their life.
Do
So I'm
you
in that grind period right now.
Absolutely. Do you also believe that you are in that grind period where you want to dedicate your years here? But isn't it a dilemma, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I always think of it as a dilemma where you never know whether you're gonna wake up tomorrow or not.
Right.
Yet we plan for the next week,
Yeah.
correct? So what do you think that you grinding in today in the next 2 to 5 years will yield you the results that you look for the next 10 to 15 years?
So for me, I don't look at it as such a long term vision. I just look at it as what can I do today to make myself 1% better. That's
Fair.
all I care about. All I care about is, can I be the best version of myself today? Can I
Mm.
do what I set out for myself in the morning to
Mm.
accomplish? Can I get that done? If I can
Mm.
achieve that, I don't care what I do the next day. I don't care what I did yesterday. I just care about what I do right now. And if I can
Mm.
be the most efficient, whether that's playing hockey, whether
Mm.
that's doing school, whether that's
Mm.
building a company, that's all I
Mm.
care about. Right? For
Mm.
me, this idea of 10-year vision, 15-year vision, I don't know what's going to happen. Right? I
Absolutely
have no
right.
idea what's going to happen.
Mm.
But what I believe in is if I make myself 1% better every single
Mm.
day,
Mm.
I'm setting out a path that
Mm.
in 10 years,
Mm.
no matter what's happening, I will be a better person in
Absolutely.
some capacity.
Absolutely, because this is what I've been learning somewhere, and I was reading that the power of consistency, right?
Mm-hmm.
As you mentioned, that you have to be better 1% every day.
Right.
Better 1% is not difficult, but if you
Mm-hmm.
cumulatively aggregate that, it becomes different because 1 raised to 37 is equal to 1. But
Right.
1.01 raised to 37 is 37 literally,
Right.
right? So you
Exactly.
become that significant with minor efforts.
Mm-hmm.
The last question and the important one, as we were discussing, what would you like to see yourself as an exit strategy, or is there an exit strategy that you believe could be there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Garnet and I both agree that this company is not the end goal. I think there's a lot more that we want to do from a social impact perspective and from a
Interesting.
business perspective. And so we believe that this is a way for us to understand markets differently, a way for us to grow our network, a way for us to
Mm.
solve different problems, and most importantly, a way for us to learn. And that's
Mm.
something that we value a lot in is learning. Every single day we're trying to learn. And so if this does lead to an acquisition, fantastic. If this does lead to us keeping this company around on autopilot,
Mm.
fantastic. If this
Mm.
leads to some kind of public offering,
Mm.
fantastic.
Mm.
For us, as long as we're able to learn and consistently grow, that to me is what's most important. But
Mm.
I think at the end of the day, how
Mm.
does this allow us to pursue other
Mm.
ventures at the
Mm.
end, right? And we have so many ideas. We have so
Mm,
many different problems that we want to solve. We have so many
mm,
different people in our network that we want to solve these problems for.
mm.
And I'm so eager to do that. But at the same time, I understand that I need to get this one done first. I need to have this win under my belt. Once I have
Exactly.
this win under my belt, anything is possible, right?
But I agree that you have different prospects of exiting this. But what do you dream of exiting it as?
The
That
dream.
like tell me your dream, and then we'll see after many years that what's
I mean,
happened.
at the end of the day, like I think every founder's dream or most founders' dream is to have that, multi-million dollar exit and acquisition from a large company. But it's so far out in the future where
Hmm.
it's so hard
Just
to
just
predict.
manifest for
Yeah,
yourself.
but
Like
the question
let's
also
say
becomes is like, do I want that? Right? Like,
exactly.
is that something I'm a striving to be? I think for me, the
Hmm.
focus and exit opportunities will all come naturally as long as we consistently solve these problems for our customers. And now I'm so fortunate to be in a position where working with some of the largest production companies, the largest
Hmm.
uh, esport games, the
Hmm.
largest content creators in
Content
the world,
creator,
where
correct.
any one of those organizations, if wanted to, can
Hmm.
pick us up, right? If
Absolutely.
wanted to, can pick us up, and
Not only they, if you guys also want to
that's right, right? If
picked
we, if,
up.
yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting conversation. We have a lot of people come to me. I don't know why lately. A lot of people have been
Hmm.
asking me, what's your number that you want to sell the company for? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what those numbers are, and I don't want to get so caught up in that stuff, right? Because
Correct, correct.
that creates such a false perception as to what the worth is, what my worth is. I don't want the cloudiness of any of that affecting me.
Absolutely, because that proves to a point where once you know the destination, you won't be able to enjoy the process at times,
Yeah,
right? So you want to enjoy the process, never worry about the destination. Well, it
exactly.
was great talking to you, Akshay. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. So, guys, we have got Akshay Maharaj, a significant individual and an entrepreneur who has learned from the experimental form of learning rather than the academics learning. And it was one of the great lessons that we have learned. Thank you so much, Akshay.
Thanks for having me.
Great
I
talking to
appreciate it.
you.
Of course.
Likewise. Well, see you next time, guys. Take care.